and we have Henry and Naomi Mayer. Oh, Henry is from Nigeria, and Naomi is a Burundian refugee. But anyway, so we have them here, and the topic of our show is teamwork makes the marriage work. Right? This couple has done so many things together. Their ministry is phenomenal. Like, just to see them on social media, to see them together, oh my gosh. And they've only been married for like 2 years. Ooh, Jesus. But you know what? I am so excited to have them here. It's wonderful. Like, I've been married for almost 18 years, and it's wonderful to see young couples coming out the gate, serving God and doing things for Him. And as Naomi told me, she wants to die empty. So it's wonderful to have them here. So welcome, Henry and Naomi. Yay!
My name is Naomi Sengimba Mayor. As she mentioned, I am a former refugee, Burundian, first generation Burundian American. And I came here, tragic story. I came here because of my parents fleeing a conflict. And then life kind of just happened. You know, I am a cultural influencer. I am a student. I love God. I love my husband. And I love people. So that's a little bit about who I am.
So my name is Henry. I'm a full-time barber, Chris Heights and grooming, and I'm also a minister in training. Yep, my parents are from Nigeria, and I'm second generation Nigerian American. Born and raised in Houston, Texas, and yep, now I consider myself a Okie.
Ooh, I don't know about that. Like, I wouldn't be claiming it. Like, honestly, like, I don't even know. But anyway, I'm so glad to have you two here. I mean, it's a wonderful thing, like, to just to have you here. We were supposed to do this a couple months ago or several months ago, but life happens. Yeah. But you know, the cool thing is, you know, this couple, like, they move in secret. Like, they're stealthy. You don't even know what's happening. Like, you just, like, so what I've decided to do, what I've done in practice, is I give myself an alert and I reach out to Naomi on a weekly basis to find out what's going on. So they're doing some great things, and one of the things that I'm super excited about, I'm elated about, is they've co-authored or multi-authored. I don't know how you say it, but they've co-authored a book with several other people, and they've written a chapter in the book. The name of the book is Life Interrupted: How COVID-19 is Reshaping Our Relationship with God, Health, and Business. The chapter is A Lion Still Has to Eat. Woo! It's good. Like, I read it. It's, I'm telling you, Lord Jesus. Okay, so let's get to it. You know, you're newly married, and COVID-19 happened. So, how did that pan out? I mean, you're getting to know each other. There's things that you still don't know. What did COVID-19 look like for you, Henry?
Me, I believe that it was like an opportunity for me to maneuver in a different way than what I was used to. Just, you know, newly married, I took a step into furthering my career when it came to my barbering. I started my apprenticeship, and you know, just like that, you know, I was considered essential. So, man, that really hurt me to my core, because I've been pursuing this barber thing for the longest, since I was 13, and you know, I feel like I'm essential, and I feel like barbering is essential.
It is for a lot of people.
Sometimes I just learned that, you know, when life backs you up in the corner, you know, you just gotta come up with a strategic strategy to come out swinging. Yep.
No, that's true. I think what it taught us was that tough times don't last, tough people do. Ooh, and that is what we had to do. So I graduated December.
Yeah.
That's a big deal on its own. Read the book and you'll understand why, okay? I graduated in December. We got married a month later in January. I moved my whole life to a broken arrow that I don't know why it's not fixed, okay? We moved all the way to Broken Arrow, and I had 3 months.
She needed to meet me.
There you go. That's what it was for. It was worth it. But we had 3 months. I was getting to know him, Garden of Eden. It's good. We were enjoying life. I was learning. I was transitioning. I was figuring out. And then, boom, pandemic, hiring freezes. First of all, I've never worked in Tulsa. So I'm looking for a job. I'm backed up in corners because I'm like, I'm supposed to be a helpmate, but I'm not really helping. As he said, he was considered non-essential, so he had to figure something out too. So it was kind of just like, whoa, okay, guys, like, we're trusting you. What's going on? So it was a lot of staring at walls, fighting emotions, staring at each other. A lot. It was a lot, but there was a lot of growth in it. And just like the chapter said, a lion still has to eat, and lions are tough, and so are we. We fought what tried to fight us, and we made it.
That is so good. So, for me, I was quarantined with when you have boys, it seems like they multiply, even though it's only a small number. So it seemed like we had about 9 of them in the house. It was only 3. And then my husband, he had just gone through a surgery and then ended up getting COVID. So that was really kind of insane. Can you tell me what your dynamic was like? Because, like I said, you guys do a lot as a team. When you are a team, you spend a lot of time getting to know each other. Without going into a whole lot of details, what were some of the pet peeves or some of the things you were able to overcome when you were quarantined, trapped, socially distancing? Okay, Naomi, let's do it.
I think that those 3 months was a learning curve for me because it was like marriage is a mirror, and you really realize how much you stink. And I was like, this me, that's me. So I think that it was interesting time because we are polar opposites. The type of people that we are, I am a night owl. He is a morning bird. He likes to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to work out. Listen, somewhere in Proverbs it says that only the wicked run when no one's chasing them. So I'm just gonna leave that there. I'm gonna leave that there. But I was really listen, like it's something else when you guys are kicking it on the phone, kicking and the euphoric type of love, and then when y'all get together and you're faced with reality, like your head gets into a place where it's like, bro, like, are we gonna make it? Are we gonna? Then you have to really. In the book, I talk about the difference between a cub and a lion, and you see the ways where you're a cub, and you see the ways where you can transition to become a lion. And in those areas, I saw all the cubs in me. Okay, I saw all the areas where I was immature. I saw all the areas where I had. He has gray hair. I think it was from those. It was definitely from that
time. As he smiles humbly on the side. So look, wait a minute. Before you go any further, Henry, with what it was like for you, pet peeves, all that, I forgot that you guys were long distance. Tell me how long you were long distance. Either one of you can answer it. How long were you long distance? I remember you had a relationship or friendship or something like that. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we had dated. So we were friends for 6 years at a time. We met in college. She went to a neighboring college. Went there too. And just fast forward, we reconnect, all that stuff. guy does his thing. But yeah, so we dated for we dated for 10 months.
Henry's like, I knew what I wanted. Why you gotta wait when you know it's real?
Look. So, Naomi, I don't know if you know this about Henry and I. Henry and I went to a Bible college together, and Henry disappeared like my I think it was part of the end of our first year, and then came back my last year at this particular Bible college and ended up finishing out. So it was kind of cool to see. But like I said, Henry, are you dating anybody? He was like, yeah. She's wonderful. She's like the best thing I've ever. Like, Henry was smitten. Like he was smitten. I was like, who is it, Henry? Who is it? Like he kept it under wraps for a long time too. Like, Henry, who are you dating? Everybody's scrolling on his Facebook page trying to figure out who this mysterious woman is. Like,
I guess my reputation preceded me.
I mean, what it was like for you during COVID, the pet peeves, any growth experiences?
Man, so
Marriage exposes you. It exposes you. Shows you like your true self. You know, toxic traits, bad habits, inconsistencies. So it's real. It's out there. You know, but you know the ultimate question is what are you going to do about it? You know, you just got to just come to the realization is you know, marriage is hard work, but work is not hard when you're doing what you love. There's inspiration, there's determination to work things out, you know, to talk things out. And I've learned how to effectively communicate. It's one thing to communicate. It's another thing to effectively communicate.
Yes, Lord.
I'm still
Glory.
I'm still growing in that, so please don't put us on no type of pedestal. You know, we're not. I like to tell people we're not perfect, but we still have a purpose. Yep.
That's good. That's really good. You know, so I'm assuming you wrote the book during COVID. Hey, how did that go? Like, how did you get your ideas? Did you come up with um, the ideas together, or did you come up with them separately? And then how did you do that when you were stuck on quarantine?
Can we be transparent?
Sure, absolutely.
All right. This was a learning curve. So we had the time, first of all, we're both first time authors, and we both have a different relationship with writing. Like writing saved me. I'm a poet, like, but I write for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't write for people. So it's a whole different beast. And this was Henry's first time writing. And so we learned how to use our strengths. So I kind of sat and was his soundboard, and he told me ideas and stuff like that. But most of the writing was at our own pace. And in between it, there was issues too, because we were learning how different we were. So Henry's a planner. I go with the flow, you know? And so to merge in the middle. And so we stated, okay, by this time, we're going to have a rough draft done. And then we would have our own space to do it. But in between, Henry would be like, Henry would plan out, I'm going to write on these days at this time, I'm going to do this. And he realized I wasn't doing any of that, right? Because we're different. And at the time, it started becoming a little tension, because it was like, what are you doing? Where is it at? The time is coming. And in that, it kind of showed us how we were different and how we could still come to this same place of working together, even though we're different.
And writing for me is therapeutic. I always like to keep a physical journal. That's also how I've learned to recognize God's voice in my life. And one of the main ways I communicate and express my emotions. So taking that, yeah, I had to really work on my grammar, on writing the book and everything. And it also helped too as well that we did have a writing editor kind of revise the things that we wrote and give us like some bring things from a different perspective or bring like a new idea and kind of help us fully express the point that we were trying to make. Yeah. So.
That's good. That October is the month of harvest. November will be some other theme or whatever, but October is the month of harvest. And starting in September, I started encouraging people to step out and do what they felt that they were called to do, no matter whether they had experience or a background in it or whatever. But if they felt like they felt like that was their destiny, that they could just step out and do it. So I want to ask both of you, being first time authors, how would you encourage someone that is thinking about writing a book, that's thinking about stepping out there and putting their emotions and thoughts to paper, and it has a message, that has a story, that has something to share to, and they feel like it's to a larger audience or greater purpose? Like, what would you say to encourage them to actually just do it?
Okay. I would say start by starting. First of all, if God gave you the imagination or the idea, that means that there's a purpose for that idea. Take it to God and start by starting.
Hmm.
Like, anybody's ever done anything great in the world has had to push through hesitation, has had to push through questions. But the difference between people that do something and people that don't is that they do it. Like, you can do it scared. You can do it without knowing how it's going to plan out. That's what faith is. You go and you don't know the whole plan. You trust one step and go. And I think that the beauty of our story shows that, hey, there's something that comes out of that. It's very fruitful. And we are normal people. There is nothing special about us. But what we are going to do is, if an idea comes, like I told her, I'm going to die empty. If an idea comes, we're going to do what we can to try to do it with what we have. And I think that when you're good with a little, more can be given to you. And so, like, do what you have. Use the words that you have. Words are so powerful. They are so powerful. And if you have something inside of you, I need it. And how selfish are you gonna be to keep what I need in you because you're scared of what could happen? Like, change that. Change all of that.
Change all of it now.
I need you to read what you have inside of you.
Look, that's that Burundian coming out. Change all of that. All of it.
Exactly.
Henry, are you familiar with? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, are you familiar with that?
I am actually. For me, my only encouragement, somebody stepping out, wanting to write a book, my only encouragement is this. Just do it. It's like Nike, just do it. The hardest stuff is the first step. Trust me, when you look back, it's all worth it. Be patient with yourself. Writer's block is a real thing. I didn't know that it was actually a real thing, but it's a real thing. Several times, I ran into writer's block, and a helpful tip that helped me was taking a pause, probably taking a walk or going to do something else. Maybe taking a little 15-minute nap, come back and boom, ideas, inspiration comes out. Have a mentor too as well, a someone who's done it before or who is a writer, a editor that can help you too as well. So.
All right, I got two questions because you guys brought up two different things, and then we're gonna switch gears in a few minutes. But two questions. First question: when people are writing, I know this for my own personal writing, it is because it's so personal, it's so close to you. It's people have a hard time digesting criticism about their writing. So number one, how do you get over or move through or press through the honest critiques that are healthy, and maybe even some of the negatives that you may not necessarily like? And then how do you go about finding a mentor? Because I think if you're a millennial, you've been looking for a mentor since 2000. And we've been stonewalled. We've been pushed aside. We've been told that we were lazy. We've been told that, we just wanted something for nothing. So if you're a millennial, it's very difficult for you to look and say, hey, like I trust somebody enough to mentor me through this process because they've talked about us so badly. So first one, how do you get over the criticism? Second one, how do you find a mentor? Do you walk up to them and say, hey, my name is so and so, can you be my mentor? Like, what does that process look like?
I think that I can answer it by answering the second question first.
Okay.
And going to the first one. And the second question, people like talking about themselves. So if you know somebody that's at a place where you want to be, if it's a book, a lot of people put their email addresses and their phone numbers and addresses. Write a letter, go and get a stamp, and ask about what the process was, and give your admiration. There, it takes $0 to appreciate somebody for the work that they've done. We have all of the DMs that you can slide up, and just say, I've seen where you've gotten and you're at a place where I want to be. How did you get there? Yeah, there's going to be some people that are like, I just got there because I'm that guy. Okay.
Yeah.
But most people are going to sit back and they'll enjoy sharing. And if you are in a place where you're in the same town, slide up and say, hey, I'd love to get some lunch or dinner on me, free food, okay? On me. I'd love to hear more about your story. Most people would say yes. Most people would be honored to tell somebody about their stories. I don't know if it's a human thing. We just ego trip. Hey, somebody want to know something about me? But most people are down to earth. We put people in categories, but a lot of people are just people, So if you see that, do that. And then the second part is, if you're serious about getting somewhere that you've never been, you have to be in a place where you can take correction. And that goes back to the first, right? We're good. We could be great and awesome, but we're not the best. If you want to become the best, learn from the best. That means there are a lot of times when my husband tells me something, I'm like, at his face. But then when I go back, I'm like, you know what? He was right. Don't tell him. He was right. But the people that care about you are going to tell you the truth. The people that don't care about you are going to always tell you praises. And so if somebody is bold enough to tell you that you need correction in this area and you trusted them, that means they want you to succeed. They want you to do better. So take what they're saying because it's going to help you to get better. If not, you'll stay at the same place and be a could've, would've, should've person.
Criticism. I like to tell people your life is a movie. You're always going to have critics, good ones and bad ones, but you have to realize on this journey that people will always criticize what they don't understand. As long as it's your vision, your dream, that is yours, not theirs. So have that confidence in yourself because nobody will have that for you. And then also too, as well, seeking out a mentor. I see so many people my age, we invest money into entertainment, into material things, but nobody invests in their future. Invest in your future. Seeking out a mentor. There are classes, there are courses online that you can pay for. It's the investment. It's the investment. It comes back. It's more about the money. It's the investment that's coming back to you. And then also there's YouTube University. YouTube University, and also like my wife said, social media is a good platform. Reaching out, DMing any type of editor or author, they're out there online. Or if I'm just saying these things, if you don't really have anybody around you that may have experience in writing a book and all that stuff.
Wow, phenomenal. So we're gonna switch gears right here. I'm excited. So you just don't understand the level of excitement. I'm trying to contain it. Like normally when I'm around people that are a little closer to my age, I'll like just put it out there. But because I'm trying to maintain some dignity here.
You good?
I'm a little calmer. But these two just came out with a remix. So Henry came out with
Man.
God My Comforter, right? Is that it? God
Yep.
My Comforter.
Yep.
He came out with God My Comforter, and then they just released a video October 1st with Miss Naomi featuring inside the video. So I'm super excited about it. So look, break it down to us. I know that this had a lot of symbolism for you, Henry, in the celebration of your nation, and becoming still sticking close to your roots as well as living in the United States. I know that speaks a lot to you guys. And then Naomi, I want you to talk about your Burundian origins and how those symbolisms came out in that video for you.
Yeah. That's great. I mean, like, we can start with the original.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so the song My Father, My Comforter was inspired, man, it was inspired in my prayer time. I had recently came out of a tough breakup after 5 years, and I was just in depression and just going through, just really going through, just like turning my back against God and just growing numb. Yeah, hopeless. But God is faithful. Even with me, I stopped going to church. I stopped reading my Bible, but it was crazy how I still felt God's pull, like of His love, man. Through people, through random situations, and it was after just a few months within the initial breakup that I went before God and I was like, Lord, help me, help me. I broke down, and then I started singing a song. It was random, me being a journalist. I like to journal. I wrote down the song on my little journal and I started singing it, in my worship and adoration for God. And out of that, the song was inspired. And I shared it one time at the church, at one of my parents' church, and my little sister said, "Man, big bro, you gotta make this into a song and put it out there." That was the only thing. Just make it a song, and that was it. So some years went by, and I'm like, I ain't gonna do that. That's not a big deal. But finally did it. But I didn't know it was gonna be like this. God had other plans with it. So it's awesome. It's awesome to see how God took the whole direction with the whole song.
A part of the book I talk about learning storms, and one thing that I stated was that storms are promised and they change depending on what it is. And so, in order for God to be your comforter, there has to be a storm that you're going through, right? And it's beautiful that God was able to comfort him in that area. And it's interesting because he has to be comforter in a lot of different spaces, right? So the day that the song dropped, I was in the hospital. It was crazy. Like I literally, like, it was supposed to be a height, but there was such a low. And life happens like that sometimes, You can celebrate something and then something tragic happens, and you're supposed to be happy, but then something else happens, and it happens like that. And so the song that my husband made when I was by myself, he was at work and I'm in the hospital and I'm sitting down and I have a lot of questions, and I'm just like at a really dark place. And when I listen to the song, My Father, My Comforter, and I start thinking about putting my hope in something that was more real than what was real at that moment. Right? Like, yes, I was sitting in a hospital bed. Yes, there was a lot of bad reports coming, but he's still my comforter. He's still my father. He still loves me. Still, like, those were the thoughts that were coming. And then I'm a deep thinker. I started thinking about Burundi. I started thinking about my life. I started thinking, like, I just got into a place. I'm like, you know what? Because the same sister, when the song released, she was like, why isn't Naomi on it? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I want to make a remix. And I was like, can I make a remix? And he was like, let's do it. And so, yeah, that goes in you putting trust in an idea that comes to you, right? I'm not a rapper, I'm a poet. But what is rap? Rhythm and poetry. Yeah. So I decided to take a step in a place where it's unknown, and beautiful things came out of it. And so we hope that that song is an encouragement in whatever situation you're going through personally, that you know that there's a comforter, that you know that there's a father, and that he's specific to you. Look, she gonna make me shout. Like, because y'all don't know how much comfort I needed in that hospital room. Yeah. I felt alone. Like, it's one thing to be in a hospital and you have your family around you. To be 8 hours away from your family and your husband has to go to work and you're just like, what is going on? Yeah. Like, I needed a comfort. And in that hospital, on that hospital bed, he was my comforter. Thank you. And it gave me peace to know that if he can comfort me in this area, he can comfort me with the questions and the problems that my nation has as Burundi. He can comfort any endeavors that I have. He's going to be able to comfort in those areas. So
that's so good. That is so, so good. Oh my goodness. That is so good. Oh man. Oh, Jesus. That is so good, man. Hold on, wait a minute. Give me a minute. Let me recover myself. I told you I love this couple. So you should love them too, because I said I love them. Anyway, because I mean, the content of what we're hearing is just amazing. What does that mean to your Burundian identity?
Well, so Burundi is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful nation, but there's a lot of turmoil. I don't know if you guys know about the Hutu and Tutsi genocide that happened back in 1994. Some people know more about what happened in Rwanda. The same thing, similar thing happened in Burundi at around the same time. And we experienced a genocide. And the first part of my rhyme, my Burundi baby, Ruyigi made me war torn, big storm, yeah, the struggle shaped me. Yeah. See? So I didn't have a pretty upbringing. I grew up with a lot of transition, a lot of turmoil, a lot of hatred. Like, I learned all of that because just because of who my parents were, their tribes. My father was one, my mother was another, and because there was so much going on, they had to flee to go to safety. And being, I like to call it ethnic bastardization, having to leave everything that you had and try to learn something new, you become almost, your heart becomes one that wants to figure out the problem so you can fix it. Because I can't look at my mom's people and say, you're wrong. And I can't look at my dad's people and say, you're wrong, because they all have wrong and they all have good, and you're just a child and you're innocent, and you want to have known where you came from, but because of decisions people made, you're kind of just out there, like just out there. And so I think that was kind of healing for me, to be able to say, Burundi's going to be proud of me. They are. And I'm not just saying that with words, there's actions around that too. Okay.
Tons.
Yes.
Tons of action. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. But like I said, this couple they're movers and shakers. So like they do things in stealth, but they do things. So that's a beautiful thing. I want to play a little snippet of the song. I'll play the remix, and then I'll play the original, then I'll play the remix. So.
Nam oye me da mobi, nam oye me da mobi, nam oye me da mobi. Amaraka esi me da mobi. No stress, I'm on the go. I'm blessed, I'm on the road. He gave me rest, you already know. Got it from the best, now I'm on the floor. All praise to the King of Glory.
Daily, I remember being confused with my Bible in a bottle. Couldn't walk, had to water. Low hope, high faith, no space. Asking Father why. More questions than answers, more tears than words. Screaming, my Father, my comfort.
My Father, my comforter, you know just how to comfort me. My Father, my comforter. My Father, my comforter. My Father, my comforter, you know just how to comfort me.
Let's get into it. You know, one of the things that I've learned just being married for a long time, I dealt with some really unnecessary drama. Marcus will tell you the same thing. We dealt with a lot of unnecessary drama because of the traumatic experiences that we had growing up as individuals, and then being in a very toxic culture in Christendom. So, which is a possible thing. People can be in toxic places around toxic people, thinking that you're supposed to be getting better and you're getting worse, unfortunately. And being in this arena, like we just dealt with a lot of unnecessary things. So it was about a 5 or 6 year journey that we went on to like really clean house individually and as a couple. So we're at a place where I'm not saying that there's not issues. Like we just had an issue this weekend that was something that I was dealing with, some insecurities that I had. Not saying that I'm not telling you that I'm perfect. I'm just a work in progress, right? But insecurities that I was dealing with. Can you talk to me about like how are you facing your trauma head on? I mean, Naomi, there's some traumatic experiences that you've had growing up in the United States, which you just mentioned. And Henry, I'm sure there are some. We talked about one today, but traumatic experiences that you've had, or a couple of them today. How do you make sure that you're not bringing that to the table? Or if you have brought it to the table, how are you working on it to remove that from your relationship?
That's heavy. You can start.
Oh,
That's
man.
heavy.
Okay. Man, that's a good question. That's a good question. For me, I've learned that you can become the very thing that you hate. So you have to be careful. We've all have we have all subconsciously, unsubconsciously learned things, from our parents, those of us who were raised by maybe grandparents or grandparents, we have learned things from them. So those things tend to show up, once we're involved in relationships, with a girlfriend or, marriage. And again, you have a choice. Do you remain hurt, sick, or do you actually want to be healed and free from that and continue to grow into the person that you desire, that God has called you to? It takes work. It takes work. For me, I grew up in a performance-based home. I'm grateful for my parents. I'm the oldest out of six. My parents, they did divorce in my adult stages, and yeah, just through that, I've seen some things I've watched growing up show up in my marriage, and it's very discouraging. But I've committed to the decision to actually getting help. One of the ways that I get help is my church. We have a men's group. We meet every other Monday, and it's a place for men to be men. In society, men are viewed differently, and we don't really have that space to be us. To just express a lot of our emotions and our trauma. Also, too, as well, I've had received counseling through one of my spiritual advisors, and that has been very helpful and beneficial. And also, the Word of God, of course, focusing and meditating on who I am in Christ. In Christ, I am not my upbringing. I'm not my environment. I'm not my mistakes. I'm not my trauma. Those are all things that I have to renew within my soul, And thank God, the Holy Spirit has been helping me. Thank God for my friends and also my wife who's been encouraging me to take that step. Because I used to be against therapy and counseling, man. I used to be one of those type of Christians, but it's definitely beneficial and definitely essential.
Before you jump in, Naomi, I wanted to say this. One of the things that I did a brotherhood thing last year, and we did it for maybe about, I think I did it for like 3 months, maybe 2 or 3 months, because I felt that it was really vital for men to be able to have that platform because a lot of men don't have community um, and a way to express themselves. Now, I will say that during that time, it was hard. I think it was a hard topic for people to grasp hold to because it's such a scary thing for men. Do you think it's scary to be around other men and really open up and be truly who you are?
Yes, it is. Growing up in the Nigerian culture, we weren't taught to express our emotions. And most men, grow up like that. Just be tough. Just keep it to yourself. Stop crying. Boys don't cry. Men are not supposed to cry. So you grow up with these things, man, and it's scary, man. To be in a space that gives you that, freedom to actually express. It's like, man, I don't even know how to express. I was never taught to do this, so it's kind of like learning how to walk like a little baby. But yeah, it is scary. It's very scary.
Yeah. These gentlemen that we talked about, they were like, I wish that men had what women have, the community that women have. Unfortunately, I think here in this society, like the community has fizzled off to a degree. It appears that here, and I will probably deal with this a little later, but here, um, community is superficial and it's based on interest as opposed to genuine authenticity of who people are, what kind of character they have. It's basically, what have you done for me lately? You remember that song? What have you done for me lately? Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, yeah, it's really it's based on that, and I find it even in Christian circles that we're dealing with people based on what they can do for us, how they can give us a leg up, and not truly who they are as people. Because you see people, and I'm gonna let you get to the question, Naomi, about the trauma. But I see people. People have experienced really traumatic things from other people in Christendom. And I see them still trying to get these people's approval who have traumatically hurt them and still remain in those circles because there's no sense of belonging. Well, if they hurt me and I leave them, who's gonna, who am I gonna be around? Who am I going to, what group am I going to be in? What community am I going to be in? But it's really not a sense of community because communities help other people. Communities help people. Like they do. Yeah, they all up in your business and you can't be beating on your wife and and dragging her down the street, or you can't be trying to poison your husband. You know what I'm saying? Somebody's gonna say something to you about it. But here, we look at people and we turn the other way. We don't get involved. We don't wanna do a lot of things that could help each other to move to that next level. All right, Naomi. Whew, I know that was a lot.
It makes think of like the counterculture, like being a pursuer of God and wanting to be like God. And you see that in the Bible, the context of what God's people was definitely not Western. And I think that we get into this fight a lot because Henry is very Westernized and I'm more cultural. And so they clash. And there's values in both areas.
Yeah.
And there's very, very much wrong in both areas. And it's interesting when we see those things where it's like, hey, should we be individualistic or should we be communal? And what does that look like? What does being communal look like without overpowering somebody's independence? And that's what God does, right? He doesn't force us to follow him, but he also commands community.
Yeah.
Because we can't do this walk alone. And how do we as Christians be able to represent it in a positive way? Because I'm just like we were talking about, I'm hurting and I'm broken. He's hurting and he's broken. And we're supposed to come together and represent a union that's one. But as we're becoming one, we're hurting each other. And so we have to continue, like that's why there's that threefold, right?
Yeah.
Because when he hurts me, listen, my first thing is run. My cutoff game was so strong when I was single. You could look at me wrong and we're not having a conversation anymore. But we have to get to that place where I have to mature. Right? He can't offend me and then I'm gone. I made a covenant. I can't leave because he pissed me off.
Right.
Can I say that?
Yeah, you can.
I can't leave because it made me mad. And so that's when the three chords thing actually happens, because there's going to be a time where Henry and I, we're working together. Like when I was in the hospital, I was offended at God. I was upset. And Henry and I were together. Then there's times where I'm mad at myself. Like he showed me the mirror. It's me. I'm nasty looking. I just want to give up. I don't feel like I'm ever going to become the greatness that God sees in me. And then Henry and God are there trying to be like, hey, yo, Naomi, this is who you are. Like, yeah, you got to work on these parts because they're going to be honest. But they're so life-speaking into me. And then there's times where I have to get rid of me, and it's me and Henry. And Henry and me are mad at Naomi. And so that's why it's a chord of three, because in that area, we're making like a beautiful braid where there's a time where I'm upset. And it's just me and God, Henry and our union together is out on the side. And then that it weaves together and it becomes stronger and we become a more unified. And that helps with our trauma as well, because we have to go in those three areas, right? Sometimes the trauma can be fixed together through communication, through being grown, apologizing and doing that stuff. Who wants to do that?
I want to be grown. It hurts, but I want to be grown.
I want the end result, so I have to go through it, but I don't want to be grown all the time. If I can be honest. And then there's other times where I have to process by myself. And even though Henry loves me so much that he wants to be a part of it with me, he has to take a number, at a restaurant, take a number and get a seat.
Yeah.
It's just me and God.
Yeah.
You can't come in this area. You can't help me with this area, even though he desires to. Like, this is just me and God. I need you to. Little moment. And so it's just learning how to manage all of those transitions, and I think that's the thing that can keep us pushing is the desire. Like, you have to get to that place where you value the commitment more than the emotion, right?
There again.
You have to value the commitment more than the emotion, because there are plenty times where the curse word, the D word, the curse word came up, man. And it's like, that's so beneath us, but it comes up because like my feelings are hurt. Communication is not there. Understanding is not there. Then I don't see Henry as a loving husband. I see him as my enemy. And I'm like, okay, let's box in. Like it's ready. I'm ready. You ready? Let's go. But then you have to be committed and then go back and be like, hey, like that's not his heart towards me. Like, and you got to do that with God too, because sometimes you're offended at God and you're like, it's not God's heart towards me. The enemy is doing a really good job translating in my head. Like that's not God
Absolutely.
to me.
Yeah.
And you have to do that about yourself too, where it's like, you know what? I choose to believe that I can be better.
Yeah.
I choose to believe that I can stand. And I'm gonna do that thing. Okay.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this has been so good. We've got about 5 minutes. There's so many different directions that I would love to go into. So I guess I mean, goodness. You blessed us so much. I don't know if you really caught what she was saying with the braid, the cord. But if you know how to braid, which I do not, my mother is the braider. Yes, I had no sisters, so I didn't have anybody to practice on, and I did not like dolls. So yeah, there you go. And all my kids want now are braids, so I send them to my mother so that she can braid their hair. But rewatch that because part of the time one side of the braid is out, the other side of the braid is out, and then the other one is in. And then did you see that? She was talking about interweaving, right? So I don't know what that even looks like. I can't even make my hands do it. But listen, she's gonna show you. Show her. She's gonna show you right now.
Right here, this me.
Look at that.
This me. This Henry. And this is God.
Yeah.
3 separate. You see the curls? Curl, listen. Right there. These 3, right? The middle's me. This is God, this is Henry. There's gonna be a point where it's just me by myself and God is with Henry. And I am out, I'm the one in the wrong. And Henry has to intercede on my behalf. Talking to God, praying to God about me, saying, hey, God, this isn't the one I said I do too. How can I stand in the gap?
Yeah.
And there's gonna be times where Henry's in the wrong. And I'm with God. And then there's gonna be also times where it's just me and Henry, and God is like, yo, what's going on?
Ain't none of
What's
y'all
going on?
right?
But then there's another aspect that we can see humanistic wise, where it's like, hey, I need to deal with this and process with this by myself. And Henry has to trust God that God can deal with it, and I'm working on it, and that I'm doing my part. And then there's another part where Henry got to deal with something by himself. And I'm with God and I'm interceding on his behalf, but there's going to be times where I'm angry at Henry and it's me and God is helping me to stay with the commitment, right? So while we continue to do this in time and patience, that's what we don't like to do.
Right.
Time and patience,
Right.
you stay. And as you continue to do that, then it becomes a cord that's not easily broken, right?
That's so good. That's so good. Thank you for doing that demonstration because, like, I wasn't doing it justice. But you see that? Watch that. Watch that. Okay, look. I gotta have these 2 people come back on the show sometime real soon. So we'll pick up on. There'll be a part 2 to this series. Look, if you are married, want to be married, have been married for a long time, the thing that I keep hearing over and over and over again is desire, commitment, covenant. To be a part of a team, you have to be a part of the team. And for a long time, my husband and I kept telling my husband, and I'm not throwing any shade. He will tell you that he dealt with a lot of trauma, and because of the trauma, he saw me in this light. But for a long time, I told my husband that we were a team. I would never be against him on that team. Yeah, I may be mad at him as a team member, but I would never be against him on that team, because if we were together as a team, we could fight anything. Even if we had to get to each other together and like jack each other up on the side, on the sidelines, but we were always going to be a part of this team together. And he could not figure that out. And then it was sometime this year when he started dealing with his trauma, when he said to me, he said, I have been fighting you and everybody else. It was me against the world. I can only trust me. But when you're in a marriage, you can't just trust you. It's a team effort. A marriage is not one-sided. Okay, you hear that? It's not one-sided. You can't have a marriage by yourself. There has to be two participating people that realize that it's them on a team, okay? And that you're facing life together. You're doing life together. You're working on projects together. And like this couple, they're writing books together and they're making music together and they're changing their nations together. You gotta see it. So teamwork makes the marriage work. Until next time, we'll see you soon. Bye.